Well, time now for a change in pace. It's our press review. Well, it's time now for a look through the papers. I'm joined here in the studio by Diptyque Laurent. Hello to you, Diptyque.
Hi, Rochelle.
A lot of bold black headlines, mixed reactions from the British press over Theresa May's draft Brexit deal.
That's right. That deal has, of course, been approved by Cabinet, but let's say it's been a hard slog already. There's still a lot of way to go. It's left the government ever more divided, and that's really reflected in the front pages of the British press today. The Daily Mirror, we're showing you a compilation there. The Daily Mirror calls it a war cabinet. The Metro says back May or sack May. Theresa May, meanwhile, remaining adamant, as you see from the Daily Mail, that she will fight for the deal. She stands to fight.
All right, well, what are the other papers saying, Diptyque?
Well, we've been looking at The Guardian as well, that says May's deal is doing nothing to heal divisions. Her deal has left a split cabinet, a split party and a split nation. In other words, this extremely eloquent headline from The Sun, it's, for me, the standout front page today. The pro-Brexit tabloid calling May's deal a soft one that's been blasted by all sides.
All right, well, in Ireland, there have been, meanwhile, national protests following a court ruling in favour of a rape accuser after his lawyer argued that the victim was consenting because of her choice of underwear. It's
pretty shocking. So this court case took place a week ago, and just to give you an idea of how much national anger there is, on Wednesday, there were nationwide protests still reacting to this decision. Among the defence team's arguments was this doozy. Since the victim was wearing a lacy thong, she was, quote, attracted to the defendant and open to being with someone. The jury just took 90 minutes to reach their unanimous not guilty verdict, sparking concerns about victim blaming that might dissuade women from coming forward in the future, and also calls for better barrister training and judicial reform. Earlier this week, Ruth Coppinger, an MP, brandished a thong in Parliament to make her point. As I mentioned, there were nationwide protests on Wednesday, some 400 women marching to the Cork courthouse where the trial took place, placing underwear on the steps of the tribunal. There's also been a huge mobilization online, social media, really propagating the anger. This user, for instance, wondering on Twitter which of her underwear is, quote, less rapey.
All right, well, to Brazil next, where President-elect Jair Bolsonaro has sparked a diplomatic crisis by criticising Cuba's doctors.
That's right. Cuba is reputed to have some of the best doctors in the world, so it's quite a surprise that he would attack the quality of their training. The New York Times explains that under Dilma Rousseff, Cuba started sending doctors to impoverished and remote parts of Brazil. It was under an initiative called meaty-looking, which was wildly successful. Well, Bolsonaro stoked anger by demanding that Cuban doctors' credentials be revalidated in Brazil, questioning the quality of their training in Cuba, and criticizing the Cuban government for not allowing the doctors to bring their families with them.
Right, so what's the reaction on that bin then?
Well, it's been really played out in the Cuban and Brazilian press. Let's show you Granma. That's the official communist website for the government, where they talk about how Cuba has ordered its doctors to come back home. The government accusing Bolsonaro of, quote, contemptuous and threatening remarks, reminding him that Cuba was filling in vacancies left by Brazilian doctors and other foreign doctors. Bolsonaro, meanwhile, when asked how he would fill that demand for health professionals, doubled down on his comments. Folha de Sao Paulo reports that he asked journalists in a press conference if they'd like to be treated by Cuban doctors.
All right, Diptyque, well, moving on to the US, where another White House staffer has resigned, or some might say has been forced to leave.
That's right, except this time the decision came from Melania Trump, not Donald Trump. The Washington Post explains that a, quote, transoceanic personnel crisis is partly to blame. Now, last month, Melania Trump went on her maiden solo trip to Africa, traveling only with her security and press corps. Now, Mira Ricardel, then Deputy National Security Advisor, had to travel separately. She threatened to revoke National Security Council resources for Melania Trump's trip in revenge. Trump then publicly advocated for Ricardel's ousting, which was confirmed on Wednesday. It could be a power move from the First Lady to show that she's in charge, that she can make decisions. For this cartoonist, though, it's more likely that she's taking a leaf out of her husband's book. Here you have the two of them as king and queen, respectively. Melania Trump there saying, off with their heads. Donald Trump complaining that she stole his line.
All right, then, and finally from you, the American holiday of Thanksgiving is just around the corner. For you non-turkey eaters out there, there might be just the perfect option. Watermelon ham, you say?
That's right. It's not actually ham. It's watermelon that looks like ham. It's part of a growing trend in the food world to create vegetarian meat-looking food like bleeding burgers made from beetroot. On the screen there is watermelon ham. It's actually a watermelon that's cooked like real meat. It's brined, it's smoked, it's slow cooked for hours, it's seasoned with rosemary, salt, spices, then basted in an oven. So the final result being that when you cut into it, it feels like you're cutting into a rack of lamb or a rack of meat. It became a restaurant hit this summer, flooded Instagram, and now is in high demand ahead of Thanksgiving, even among meat eaters. Other vegan meat options that The Guardian talks about: a smoked cantaloupe burger and a Wagyu melon burger that's a vegetarian take on the Wagyu beef burger.
Okay, I think I might stick with the turkey.
And I might just stick with the vegetables.
Okay, Dipsy, thank you very much for the roundup of the papers. To our viewers, if you do want to see more, you can always log onto our website at france24.com.